All right, so sure everybody's here. All right, so we're doing like it said on the assignment sheet. Let me pull that up again. 30 frame cycle of animation, right? So first I have to switch my animation timing. This is most important, to 30 frames per second. Okay, you can do that down here on the right hand side on the toolbar down here. You might be able to do it here. I never do this here. I guess not. Nope, not here. But you can also do it under the settings preferences. Go to preferences, go to animation. Sorry, not animation. Maybe they took it out of here and just put it down there. I guess they did. I didn't realize they'd removed it from here. Here we go, on time slider, 30 frames per second. So there you go. Okay. All right, so save that. All right. And what we want to do is I want to take this, my time setting, down to, what I want to do is take it to 31. Okay. So if I go to 31, what I'm going to do here, since I'm making a loop, I need my first frame and my last frame to be exactly the same pose, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my first pose on frame 1, right? For the first pose, I'm going to just do the like the landing pose prior to the first jump where the feet go out, right? I'm just, so, you know, since we're already in this pose here, I'm just going to set this here. Going to give them a little bit of a bend, right? Boom, boom. So I'm going to take the shoulder. And again, this is set to FK, so this should line up with what you're doing on your character, right? I'm just going to rotate this down. I'm going to rotate it forward a little bit to have it, you know, slap on his thighs. I'm not doing any of the finger stuff right now. You'll need to incorporate the fingers. And I'm going to rotate the clavicle down a little bit because when the arms go down, the clavicles go down, right? Just make it look natural, right? Relax your fingers. I'll go ahead and use, I'm going to go ahead and do the relax pose just for the sake of, you know, using what I have available to me. You don't have this pose available, but that's okay. You would just have to manually set your position, and, you know, you could probably just do this same type of pose manually and set it and forget it, right? Okay. And I'm going to give him a little bit of a bend rotation on the spine. Actually, I'm not going to rotate that. I'm just going to rotate on the spine because he's landing and we want to give him some impact on that. I wonder if there's a spine IKFK switch, because I feel like this is, there we go. That's what I want. I want FK spine, because that's kind of how we have that set up. There we go. That's what I want. This is basically just kind of like an upper torso correction control, right? So I'll just leave that as that is. I'll go ahead and move his eyes down to be in front of him and rotate his head down to be a little bit down like this. Now, for this, what I want to do is I'm basically just blocking this in. So I want to select all the controls that I'm going to be using through this process of animating this character, right? So I'm selecting these, and I'll go ahead and do all 3 FK controls. This is usually how I do things. Okay, everybody's different on how their process of animation. I'll go ahead and select the neck. I'll select the head. I'll select the eyes because they are not by default set to follow the head. And I'll do the clavicles as well because I'm going to be adjusting those. Did I do the spine? I think I did. Yeah. So I'm selecting all of those main controls that I'm going to be using for each of these poses, right? Okay. And what I usually do is I'll create a shelf button, right? I'll either create a new shelf item, or I'll do it on, since we're on animation, I'll do it on the animation tab on the shelf, right? You can create a new one if you hit the little cog here and go to new shelf, or you can do shelf editor and you can create them here. Basically, you just create a new shelf and it'll load up over here. You can give it a name and stuff like that. So once you have your shelf or your shelf selected, right, what I can do is I can create what's called a selection set. If I go to create sets, quick select set, right? If I do that quick select set, I'm going to do main controls. You want to keep the naming on this to really small because it's going to be only as big as the icon, right? And with whatever you have selected here, you're just going to click add to shelf, right? And there it is. See how it's already cut off. It didn't even allow controls, but the idea is there. So whenever I play with my animation, move things around and stuff like that, if I click that, it will select all of those items that I have chosen to set my keyframes on. So here I am on frame 1. I'm just going to hit S to set a keyframe on all of those keys, right? And then I'm going to middle click frame 31 and hit S again, right? So what this does is it sets the exact same pose at the beginning and the end of the animation. You may have done this with the ball bounce in AM101. You may have already taken an animation class. I'm not sure. But what this does, the goal for this is to make sure that you have the exact same pose on frame 31 as well as frame 1, because when I set my animation to 30 frames, right, it's going to loop perfectly into frame 31, which is also frame 1, right? So it's what happens if you do this on frame 30 is you have the exact same frame on 1 and 30, and so that lasts for 2 frames instead of 1, and you see this skipping that happens. So you want to do that first, right? And then when we have our jumping jack animation, right? It's always good to plan things out. Let me go to the notepad. We're going to have feet together. These are the poses, right? Jump. And then feet apart. And then jump. And then feet together again, right? So basically we have 5 poses. The first 2 are the exact same, right? So what we need to do now is we need to think about, since this is 30 frames of animation, where do we break this apart, right? This is basically every 7 frames, right? 7 frames will be 28, right? For four poses. So 7 to 8 frames, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to frame 16. I'm just going to left click there. And I'll go ahead and just move my feet out. You don't have to do this way, but this gives us, since we're already here, I can go ahead and easily just kind of set this pose. I'll do my quick select set and hit S for keyframe there, right? And then on frame 7 or 8, I'll just do 8. We're going to set my first jump. I select my main cog control, lift him up. And I'll go ahead and lift these up a little bit. I might rotate them down for the sake of, you know, making it look like he actually jumped into the air. A little offset there. I'm going to take the shoulders, rotate up. We could rotate forward as well to give it a little bit more natural positioning of maybe the hand or something. I'll rotate the elbows in, maybe rotate the wrists in. I want to give this a little bit more rotation. And we want to include the clavicles because we're reaching up now. Give a different position for the head, move the eyes up. Stretch the body. I don't remember if I set something there or not. You know, just creating a pose, right? Select my main control or my controls, hit S. And actually, now that I think about it, the arms should be halfway up. And I screwed up on frame 16. That should be with the arms up, because when the feet are separated on the ground, the arms are up. Boom, boom, up, down, like that, right? So this should actually be halfway. So I'm just going to rotate that back down a little bit. I'm just going to rotate this back to 0 and make sure I have this in the process of where I want it. sometimes I get lost in where my rotation is, so I'll just reset where I am. And I'll reselect and set my keyframe there. And I'll middle click on frame 24 or 25, somewhere around there. I have all my stuff set again. I hit S, and there it is. Now what I should have, I've done this. Frame 16 is where I should have had my arms up, right? But you'll notice that the feet are going out and in, right? So frame 16, I'll just reset my arms up. And for these, I'm only moving the shoulder, the clavicle, and the elbows. So I'm just going to select those, just like that. I could redo the wrists, but I'm not gonna. And I'll go ahead and hit S again. So now I have that full animation like this. Now this is just blocking, right? I'm not really getting a lot of weight on this. If I play this back, I'm going to right click and go to playback speed, play every frame, make sure it's set to max real time, right? If it's set to free, it's going to play as fast as possible. So you can see that it's kind of a little bit floaty. There's not really any weight, right? So what I can do is I can adjust this after the fact, right? So I can go to, if I go to Windows, Animation Editors, there's the Graph Editor, which you all should know from your ball bounce. Check my settings on my animation. Oh, I have them set to linear. That's not right. Okay. That's okay. I can adjust this. I noticed this like this. These curves should not be linear like that. They should be set differently. So I'll deal with that later. But what I wanted to do was deal with the timing, right? So what I have here is every time he hits the ground, he just kind of pops right back off of it. There's no weight, you know, it's just a pump right back off, right? And as a result of the lack of weight, his body is not being affected by the fact that he's landing, right? So the timing of everything is just kind of off. So what I can do here is, you may know the graph editor, but you may not know the dope sheet. Okay. If I select the dope sheet, you can go right here. It's right there. It looks like 8 little cubes, right? It's attached to the graph editor. It's also under Animation Editor's dope sheet right there, right? What the dope sheet is basically a spreadsheet of all the keyframes. I'm just going to reselect my my animated frames here and hit A. And this works similar to an orthographic camera. I can Alt middle click and drag around. I can Alt middle and left to drag left and right to, you know, expand and contract, right? I can Alt right to expand and contract, right? And it shows all of the selected controls. I'm going to go full screen on that. All of the selected controls. If I open this up here, you'll see all of the attributes and all of the individual translate XYZ, rotate XYZ, and stuff like that. So it's literally a a spreadsheet of keyframes. And if you select, there's a summary at the top. If I select a single keyframe here, I can hit my move tool, which is W, right? And middle click and drag and reposition these keyframes anywhere I want, right? And it's on the keyframe, right? If I do the same thing in the graph editor, like if I did, let me see here. I want to do my cog control, right? If I do the translate Y on my cog control and I move this to retime it, right? It's not only going to move left and right, it's also going to move up and down. So the value changes, right? I don't have as much control here, right? So if I want to just change the timing, the dope sheet is the way to go, right? So I'll pull this back down a little bit. Come on. Why isn't it coming down? What's going on? Wow, really? There we go. That was weird. All right, so if I want to change the retiming of my up and down movement, right, to make it kind of react to the fact that he's landed, right? His feet are going to land before the body compresses, right? So this is basically just blocking out the actions. Now I have to make sure all the timing is right. So I select my cog control. I can select this keyframe here. And with my move tool selected, I just middle click and drag that to the right. And now I have a little bit of a compression like that. Now it's going to cause the feet to stretch a little, right? But I have to retime those anyway. So what I'm going to do here, I don't want the feet to pop off the ground. I want them to stay on the ground for a second, or a split second, not a second, because that's the entire length, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have this at frame 16. I'm going to middle click frame 19, something like that, and set another keyframe at frame 19 for the feet being on the ground. So now the feet land, he compresses, and then he takes off again. And I want to do the same thing for the end, right? His feet can land. I'll just select frame 1 for the sake that the feet are on the ground. I'll middle click frame, I don't know, 29, set a keyframe there, frame 2, set a keyframe there. And now when he lands, he has some compression at the end as well, right? So if we play this, it's very quick. And I might have to make some adjustments. And the curves are not set to what I wanted them to be set to. So I have mine set to linear for some reason by default. I don't know why. I don't know that I did that. If I did that, or if somebody else did that, I don't know. But I'm going to select all my controls. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to select all the keyframes, all the curves. And what I want to do is I want to set them to plateau tangents, right? What plateau tangents does is if I have a curve that has two keyframes that are the exact same value, like when I placed my foot and I had it hold there, right? Between those two keyframes, it's gonna hold that value for the entire time. It's not gonna curve down and then go back up. It's gonna be flat, right? Anything outside of that, whenever there's a change in value between two keyframes, it will be a nice smooth curve, right? So I'm going to set plateau tangents on these curves, and that should give me, if I go back to my, I'll go to a foot control. Let me just select this one. And you'll see on Translate Y, right, it has a nice curve coming up, going back down, and then between these 2 points, it's completely flat, right? Same at the beginning, same at the end, right? Okay. Now, this is not going to give me exactly what I want, but it's going to give you, it's going to be a little bit better. You can see that it's getting a little bit better. But when he takes off from the ground, you know, you want it to be a sudden leap, similar to the ball bounce, right? When he takes off, there's force there. And right now, it's easing into that lift off the ground, right? And when he lands, it shouldn't slow into the landing. It should take off, right? So these tangents here, I'm just going to select. I'll do this for both of these foot controls. And I'll do it for Translate Y on both of these, right? So I'm going to select these here, here, and here, right? And I'm going to break these tangents. Right now, if I adjust one side, the other side reacts, right? If I raise one side up, the other side goes down. This is a problem because now it's going to go below ground and then come back up, go above ground, go back down to the ground, go below ground again, come back up, and then take off again. We don't want that to happen, right? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these keyframes that I've selected, and I'm going to break their tangents, right? So if I click on this, or you can go to tangents, break tangents, or you can right click, I think. Yep, break tangents. These become dotted handles now, right? So what I can do with these is I can middle click, drag them up, similar to what I did with the ball bounce in AM101. I'm just going to select both of these, middle click, drag them up, middle click, drag them up, and middle click, drag them up. Right. So this is going to be a hard hit and a hard takeoff. Right. So now you can see it looks like a landing. I might take this keyframe a little bit farther. I might hold that a little bit longer for compression. Let me pull up my dope sheet again. And I'm just going to.
Ben, have you seen Luis?
No.
Have you seen him at all this
Not this week.
Not
No.
this week.
Is he working?
Is he working?
No, just working at got a job.
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Okay.
All right, so I'm just going to give this another frame or two on translate Y. And let's see. That's not going to work because now the feet are lifting up before the body lifts up. So I need to pull that back. Yeah, so what I need to do actually is I need to take the I actually need to take that back. I want to hold it out, but let me see here. Yeah, so for this one, oh, I know what part of the problem is. I'm sorry. Let me switch back to the graph editor. No, I did that. But this part, I'm going to have some compression, so that's okay. My translate Y on this should be like a sine wave because it's not actually hitting the ground. But it should be offset a little bit. And so I think what I'm going to do is yeah, I need to pull that over to 18. All right. I might have to adjust these a little bit farther over for their takeoff. So that I can move this over one more frame. Because I want the cog to raise up before the legs take off. So I'm going to take this over one more. Actually, I'm going to take this over a little bit to the left. There we go. So I'm going to do the same thing for the beginning as well. All right, so frame 1. I'm going to take that to the right a little bit. Oh, I don't have any movement at that point. Let me see here. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set another keyframe here. Just to get that lift off. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. All right, cool. So, and then with the spine, what I can do, let me just confirm. Yeah, that's spine. With the spine, what I can do is I can offset the keyframes for the spine. So if I select these, I don't have, oh, I did not set a keyframe on that control. I did on these two though. Why didn't it set a keyframe? It must not have selected that. Okay, I didn't get a keyframe on those two, but I really want to. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to frame 1. Let's select these two. Bring that in, set a keyframe. Go to frame 31, do the same. It was frame 16. And then on frame, I think it was frame 8, I'll stretch those out. And frame 24, I think it was also stretched out. Okay, so I needed keyframes on those. I thought I had keyframed those, but apparently not. So I'm going to go to my dope sheet. I'm going to select these spine controls. And what I want to do is I want to offset them because, again, when you land, the compression is going to happen over time up the body, right? It's like when you, I don't know, think of a car crash, right? When it hits the wall, the front crumples and then it crumples up through, right? So it's going to be kind of a similar thing. It's an impact, basically, is what it is. Yeah, shockwave. Yeah, absolutely. So what I want to do here is I'm going to, with these 3 selected, I want the middle and upper spine to be slightly behind the bottom spine, right? Okay, so I have belly and chest. I'm going to select those keyframes. Let me just pull this up and make sure I'm seeing all. I'm just going to left click and drag to select these bottom keyframes. And I'll middle click with the move tool and offset these. And then I'll select the bottom ones and offset those by a couple of frames. Now that might be too much. And plus I have no keyframe now at frame 1, right? So I'll have to deal with that. But what I should get is some slight snaking of the body as it lands, right? I might even do this a little bit more. I'll undo this and I'll make it a little bit more exaggerated, right? So on frame 16, I'll select all 3 and I'll make it a little bit more exaggerated like that. I may have to readjust the position of my shoulders, but that's okay. So I'm just gonna set my keyframe here, and then I'll pull up that dope sheet again. Again, this is just to show exaggeration, and I'm gonna do this. Yeah, I'll do this by 2s. So you can really see the compression there. And I'll want to do that at the end also. See what I mean? So I'm just showing a little bit more technique than probably is, what you guys are going to be going through. You want to do the best you can on this. I'm going to save as because I haven't saved anything. But again, like the animation of this character is simply to show off that the character can move, right? You need to, and I specifically say need to because people don't do this. You need to have one blink somewhere in there, right? Okay. just one. So I'm going to find my blink control. There's one there. I'm going to set, I'll go from 14. I'll set, I wonder if this is just has a blink. It doesn't look like it. Oh, that's cheek. So I'll set keyframes here. And I'll go to literally a one frame blink. So I'll bring that down. I'll bring that up. Set a keyframe there. I'll go to 14. Middle click 16. Set a keyframe there, right? And I'm doing one. It could be a 2-frame blink. You know, it could be fast or a little bit slower. But I'm doing one side because if you do your research, you'll notice that, you know, Buzz and Woody and all that stuff, they all blink offset from each other by a frame or two, right? So I'm going to do frame 16 to 18 on the other side, right? Select those two, set, go ahead and hit frame 18, set, and then I'll bring this up and I'll bring this down to meet. Select them both, set. And that's on frame 18. It shouldn't be set there. It should be frame 17. My bad. Set. All right, that's a little bit too far over. I don't want it to do one and then the other. So I'll take these. And move them to the left. Too far. All right, so I have that. In addition, you have some blend shapes that you can use. And your jaw, right? So I'm going to do a little bit of an open jaw. Set a keyframe there. I'll go to like 19, close the jaw a little bit, set a keyframe there. Frame 31, the same as frame 1. And then I'll do my pucker, or not my pucker, but my cheek puff, right? Again, just using blend shapes, whatever. I just want you to use your blend shape, your facial expression a little bit, right? So I'm just going to go set a keyframe, frame 1, set a keyframe, frame 31. And, you know, he's working out, so I'll do a little bit of a cheek puff. And I might use these pinch controls or something like that to exaggerate this. And I'll just hold that out a little bit. See what I mean? See how he's coming to life a little bit? Right? So I'm going to save that, save version 3. Now, only have a minute left. Animate at 30 frames per second. Play blast your animations, right? Play blast QuickTime files. Your play blast, hide your controls either through show NURBS curves, or if you have it on a layer, just hide it. Pick a good position for your character that shows off what he's doing. Make sure you can see everything in the movement. You know, I'll go ahead and turn on the cloth also. It'll probably look bad, but whatever. Make sure you can see everything in the movement. I'm going to save this as save as final, or jumping jack final. And then I'm going to right click, play blast, options. I guess we only have AVI as a capability here, so we'll do that. Set quality to 100, scale to 1, save to file, and give it a name, right? bparks _ jumping jack PB for play blast if you want to do that. It should, by default, go into your movies folder. You don't have to browse for it. Just use the default. I'll type .avi just for the sake of, you know what? I'll let it do its thing. All right. Play blast. It should take a split second, and it'll try to open up in whatever you have. Let me pull up. I'm going to try and open it with VLC because I can't stand Windows Media Player. There it is. Okay. I should be able to loop it somehow. It looks like I did 31 frames, so I want to make sure that this is set to 30. Okay, I play blasted 31 frames, so I'm going to close this out and replay blast it. Settings should save, so I'm just going to play blast, overwrite, and open with VLC. Set my loop, and it should be a perfect loop. Okay, so you're going to do that for your jumping jack. You're going to do that for your toe touch. And again, how you touch your toes, you can bend down and touch them. You can do a jump split touch, you know, like a cheerleader. Doesn't matter to me. Your back stretch. You can stretch your arms over your head. You can put them in the, you know, the thing of your back. You can do a back bend for all I care. You know, as long as it's a loop, right? You have to get back to the same position. So don't go crazy with getting out of position because you literally only have 1 second. Okay, you have 1 second to do this in. Make sure that you set it to 30 frames per second. Grading on this, 3 separate animation files. So I should have in the scenes folder your jumping jack saves, your toe touch saves, and your back stretch saves, right? Each one with a final. Every single one of them should have the character referenced in. Rig referenced into the animation files, 20 points. All 3 tests are 30 frame cycles for 20. All cycles are play blasted out. Those files are submitted for 20. Animations look good, 6 points. Not a lot when it comes to the quality of the animations, right? So don't worry, it's 2 points per, right? So don't worry about whether or not you're amazing at animation. Get them done, get them play blasted, get them turned in. Same project directory, 2 points, critique, 2 points. Any questions on this? So I'll take that as a no. All righty, folks.